Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name's Monica, and in today's video, I am going to do my January wrap-up. As you can tell, I have a cold. I'm not feeling good, but I wanted to get this filmed, and I wanted to get this out to you. So don't mind my voice. I might have to, and if there's a little extra editing, it's because I had to stop to drink water, and I don't want to drink water on camera. So if it's a little choppy, that's why. All right, so you will notice a trend in this video. I decided that I'm going to read Nora Roberts' backlist. Now, she has 275 books. That's a huge commitment. So I've read 20 Nora Roberts books in the month of January because a lot of them were novellas. Like, I got the novellas out of the way. So before that, I had read... I don't remember. I have read 66 total. That's including the 20. So I think it's like 46 if I'm doing my math right. Math doesn't math with me. So, but anyhow, so but I wanted to at least do this. I have a journal that I'm going to write in. You might do some dedicated vlogs to read Nora's stuff. We shall see. I'm playing it by ear with this, but I really wanted to get through her books. So yeah, I know I'm a little crazy, but here's the thing is I really like Nora Roberts. I think she is a solid writer. I think the way she helps other writers, I love her for that. She has been writing for a long time. I just wanted to let you know that's the reason why there's a lot of Nora Roberts on this list. So, but I'm not going to talk about every single book. I'm only talking about my 5 stars as normal. So let's just get into the stats and then the books. In the month of January, I read 42 books. I've had 6 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 17 4 stars, 4 3.5 stars, 2 3 stars. I left 4 unrated for reasons, pretty much because I don't lowball books if I can help it. If I know I'm going to, if I'm going to rate a book very low, I leave it unrated because that's not fair to the author. Because I probably should have DNF'd it and I didn't. And I had 1 DNF because I knew that was going to be a really bad book, and I read The Room on that one. And then I had 3 rereads, and I read 4 ARCs or ALCs because I've had EARCs and ALCs. And speaking of formats, let's go through my format breakdowns. The first is my audiobooks. I listened to 37 audiobooks, and I read 5 ebooks. No physical books, which I'm wholly not surprised on, but whatever. Okay, now let's do the genre breakdown. So I've had 5 historicals, 14 contemporaries, 2 sports romance, 2 romantic suspense, 2 mafia or MC motorcycle club romances, no dark romances this time, 2 eroticas because I read 2 Jessica Cain novels, and that's why they were unrated because I don't rate Jessica Cain's. I don't think it's fair because I'm there for the vibes, not for the rating. So that's why. Okay, moving on. And then 8 paranormal romances, 6 romanticises, 1 cozy mystery, no historical fiction because the 1 historical fiction I was supposed to read, my library hold never came in time. And then no horror thrillers and no nonfiction. Let's just get into my standouts, and that's what I'm calling them. Instead of my 5 stars, I'm calling them my standouts because there are some books that I really, really enjoyed that would have been 5 stars if I had figured that they were favorites, but those are the ones that are 4.5 stars. So let's just go through the standouts, okay? And the first one that I read for 2025 that did reach the 5-star level, and the first one for this month, is Indiscretion by Mike Keeland. This one is about Damien and Naomi. They both rented an Airbnb at a campsite for a friend's wedding. They did not know each other, and they're both lawyers. So Dawson's a commitment phobe, and he accidentally walks into the Airbnb that she rented and he rented, but they both didn't know it at the time. And she was sound asleep, and he didn't realize that someone was in there. He slipped into bed until she beat him up. It was funny. I really enjoyed that meet cute. That was a good meet cute. They ended up deciding to share the Airbnb because there's nothing else available, and they were attracted to each other. Nothing happened, but his ex was there, and she kind of played it up like they were together and stuff, and that was a fun part. Then they got into real life where they went back to New York, and Naomi's new to New York because she moved there to be with her sister who has leukemia. She relapsed back into cancer. So Naomi's no longer a lawyer because of stuff that happened, and frankly, I agree with her reaction on what happened. She is looking for a job as paralegal. Dawson does hire her because she is wholly competent. She knows what she's doing. She knows the law. She knows how to finagle things. Like, she is a good person to have on your team. She used to work at the prosecutor's office. He's a defense attorney. So there's that. They went through a lot of things. Like, they went through their ups and downs. There's a lot of communication in this book. He kept some things more secret because of the trauma that occurred until he could verbally tell her what happened and why he is the way he is, why he doesn't commit. They both had major trauma and major losses in their lives, and she really shaped who they are. There was a lot of little funny moments, and there was a lot of little romantic moments and sad moments and tender moments, and I really enjoyed this. The plot was well written, and the romance was sensual and sweet. I really enjoyed this. The characters were realistically flawed. And there are parts that actually had me tearing up in this. And when you get me to tear up in a book, you're doing a good job. So I had to give it 5 stars. Then a novella made a 5-star here. And this is Wolf Moon by Nora Roberts. This is one of her many novellas that I had read this month. And this one is part of an anthology with other authors. And the anthology is Moonshadow. This one, I really loved the plot and I loved the characters. So Simone wanted to live her life on her terms at 18 years old, right? And so she went backpacking through Europe by herself. She barely made it through Italy when she was attacked and she was bitten by a wolf. So she turns into a lycanthrope for 3 days at the full moon. It's 12 years later. Now she is trying and failing to find a cure because she doesn't want to be a lycanthrope. She doesn't want to be a werewolf. She calls it her infection. She needed the help of Gabe. Gabe is a veterinarian, funny enough. So kind of laughed at that little thing. But anyway, Gabe, they met in a small town, Maine, where she moved to because she was moving around a lot because of her infection. Simone's wolf knows that they are mates, and her wolf wants her to turn Gabe. Well, Simone really doesn't want to turn Gabe because she feels like this is a curse. It's an infection. She's really fighting it. She's trying to find a way around not turning Gabe, and she's really trying to find a cure. And Gabe knew that she was different, but he didn't know how different until she turned into a werewolf in a jail cell that she designed specially for herself during the time that she was turned, so she didn't accidentally turn someone else. And for months he helped her find a cure for lycanthropy, and they fell in love with each other. It was short, it was sweet, it was a very strong romance for a novella. The plot was very interesting and very simple. I don't think this plot would have worked in a full-length book. I think it worked really well for a novella. So I had to give it 5 stars. Moving on. I am so sorry about this. I hate colds. So the next book that I gave 5 stars, and it's definitely a standout, is As You Desire by Connie Brockaway. This one is a feminist two lovers romance, and this place takes place in Victorian Egypt. Desdemona, or Dizzy as Harry calls her, and she hates it, but I think it's funny. Anyway, she was kidnapped and she was supposed to be sold into slavery, but the Egyptian slave traders didn't want to gain the wrath of the English government because that would have sparked some stuff. So while she was waiting to be sold into slavery, she was bored. It was very kind of funny how bored she was. And then she started getting drunk, which I thought was kind of funny. Because, I mean, if you're kidnapped, why would you get drunk? But I really loved her character from that point on. I was like, I like her. And then Harry Braxton came to rescue her. She had an infatuation with him immediately that died very quickly when she was 17 because he kind of dismissed her. And she hated that he was the one who rescued her. I knew I was going to love both characters, especially Desdemona, when she told Harry that quote, "If you bought me, I'll kill you." I was like, sold. Sold right there. Sold right there. Anyway, so Harry Braxton comes from the British aristocracy, and he left Britain because they thought he was stupid. Like, they thought he had an intellectual disability. I'm not going to use the words that they used in there because I don't use those words. The reason why he had to leave is because he has dyslexia, and they called word blindness at like the end of 1800s. Anyway, and before that they treated those people who had dyslexia like they were stupid, and he did not want to go back to that, and so he taught himself to read hieroglyphics using touch, which I thought was awesome. Anyhow, it's not completely realistic, but I loved it. I loved Dizzy and Harry together. They were pined for each other for years. He wanted her so much, even at 17, and he knew he couldn't have her at 17 because she was just way too young. They bantered, they fought, she got kidnapped again. This was Always Been You, along with an adventurous backdrop of Victorian Egypt. You had ruffians, you had scoundrels, you had falling in love. It was like, after I read this, I went and watched The Mummy, okay? Like, I was like, oh, for The Mummy because of this book. I was like, I want to rewatch The Mummy, so I did. I loved everything about this book. The pacing was perfect. The romance was swoony and awesome. I loved the banter. I loved the setting. I loved the way the characters like talked off each other. And it was an ebook. This was not an audiobook. And I devoured this book. So I highly recommend this one. It is so, so good. And then I read Sometimes You Fall by Harlow James. I gave 5 stars for Grady. Grady is a hero. Now, this is my first Harlow James book. She is a new to me author. I have never read anything from her before. This book, my gosh, Grady, who is a hero, he's everything. He loves Scotty when they were kids, but they lost touch for 17 years when he became a Major League Baseball star. And she became a mother and a wife to a horrible human being. They reunited in their hometown and had a one-night stand where Scotty became pregnant. Now, this is said in the blurb, so I knew this was coming on, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it up, because I love secret and surprise babies. So she didn't realize she was pregnant when she brought her 14-year-old son, Chase, back to it was called Carrington Cove, where she got a job as a vice principal at an elementary school. So Grady was into the relationship with Scotty and to be a father to Chase before he even found out she was having a baby. That was just like, oh, now I have a way to prove to her that I am a good person. She already knew he was a good person, but it was him shooting his shot. He had that time because he wanted to be in her life as her husband and a father to Chase, and now they were going to have a child together. And Scotty had to navigate her feelings towards Grady, as well as the emotional trauma that her ex-husband put her through. Her ex-husband was abusive. He was a POS. And anyway, Grady was perfect for Scotty. I just loved how possessive and protective he was. He went out, made sure she was taken care of. He went out and made sure Chase was taken care of. And I really love this. He had the my woman mentality, or my wife mentality, before she was even his wife. I loved how Grady was also Chase's baseball coach, and he's like, this kid has potential, and he developed a relationship not just with Scotty but also with Chase, that to show him that a man can be a strong and good role model. And I absolutely love that. There was stuff you had the meddling families on both sides, which gave the humor in it was needed for some of the plots, for some of the trauma that it was talked about, because it was really hard to read about abuse and parent abandonment. Anyway, so the plot was more character driven, which worked well with this storyline. I loved my time in this world, and I highly recommend this. This is just such a good book, and I need to go back and read the first 2 books in the series and then continue on. So yeah. So my next book is a standout, and it's mainly because of the ending. And this is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. So Xaden is back with Violet at school. Darren and Androna are as perfect as other with each other. And the character growth that Violet did go through was interesting. The romantic plot was everything that I loved in Fourth Wing. I know there were some complaints about it was more lust driven. Yeah, it was more lust driven. And the reason why I think it was more lust driven is because she was so worried about him and his soul because of what happened in Iron Flame. I feel like Dane grew. I liked him a little more in this book. And I still don't like him, but I liked him a little more in this book. But that ending. So that ending, the choices that were made and that ending, and when Violet woke up to, what she woke up to, that last battle, mind-blowingly good. Very, very interesting, and is set up a book. See, I think for me, the way I felt like she was going to tell the story is kind of like the Vampire Academies, where if you know what happens between Dimitri and Rose, that's one of the things I feel like she is doing with this. That's why the ending worked so well for me. I was like, okay, so we're there. Good to know. I'm very excited about this. Let's get on to it. Now, I'm very excited for the next books. I know she hasn't written it yet. I think it'll probably be out in 2027, which, I mean, we're going to wait. We're just going to wait. And honestly, it's fine. I'll wait. But I don't want to wait. But because I would like to see how she ends this series. And my last book on my list, and I think this is my favorite in January, that I read in January, and it was an ARC. It was an ebook, funny enough, of A Rebel Without Claws. So this is a second generation story to Stay a Spell, which is Wolf Gone Wild, Don't Hex and Drive, all the good ones. So this one is Ronan Reed. His uncle is Shane from the Wolf Pack in Witches Get Stitches, and he's an underground cage werewolf fighter, which is illegal in Texas. So he moves to New Orleans, and so he can do it legitimately, right? And he has to have a group of fighters. So him and his friends decide to do that. Well, he's doing that. He's working at his Uncle Shade's garage. And in walks Celine Cruz, who is an aura witch. Now, Celine is one of the triplets that Mateo and Evie had. Mateo is the werewolf who has Alpha always in his head. So that's from Wolf Gone Wild. So, as soon as he saw her, he knew that he had met his mate. And everybody warned him away from her because of her scarily overprotective uncles, father, and brothers. Not to mention her aunts and her mother, who are excellent witches in New Orleans. And they have the clout to back it up. Celine is a childhood therapist, and because she's an aura, she wants to help people. And she does this for supernaturals. She wasn't looking for a mate, but I mean, Ronan, she knew he was different than others she dated. And there is definitely trigger warnings you need to know before going into this one. It's death of parents, PTSD, stalking, drugging, assault, and kidnapping. So there's stuff that happens in this book and stuff that happened in her past that really you do need to know about. So we know that they're fated mates and there's going to be an automatic attraction towards them. However, Juliet Crossmate did a fantastic job building the relationship between these two. They went on dates. They were working through their trauma. They were talking about their trauma and their issues with each other. They were communicating effectively, which helped create a deeper bond than the on surface, hey, you're hot, I think we're fated mates, whatever the wolf thing is, right? I love to see the small moments between Ronan and Celine. And we saw both of them really support and love each other. So we also got to see Ronan fight in human form, in wolf form, on page, which was awesome. I really, really like that. I love it when we have fighter heroes or soccer stars or whatever, and we're seeing them do their stuff on page. I absolutely love that when that happens. I also loved reading Ronin's experience of the first Savoy family dinner with all her scary uncles and her scary father and her mother and her aunts, but especially Jules, because Jules is the aunt who could take away magic from any supernatural, which is awesome. There's a conflict in the end, which I actually thought was interesting. I liked it. There was no third act breakup in this. The one thing about reading A Rebel Without a Clause is it's like being reunited with old friends. I really love that. I loved seeing that we got to see Alpha Mateo, who is her father, be possessive over his wife and his daughter. Like, that was fantastic. And I loved seeing Evie put him in his place when he was like, "You're not dating my daughter." Oh, it was so much fun. The thing is I really loved that Juliet Cross kept her characters from the Say a Spell series. She kept their personalities. There are Next Gen series that I've read where I felt like the parents or the old characters from the old series that I loved, and we see them in the news, they weren't the same characters. They were docile. They were just whatever. They were not like that in this. She did not neuter her characters, okay? That's what I'm going to say. This added to a richly developed world that Juliet Cross has already established in the Stay a Spell series. It can be read as a standalone. I know, because I was reading some other reviews after I had read this. Some people did not feel like the world was built enough. So my recommendation is to finish the Stay a Spell series if you haven't, and then go in to read this. You can read this as a standalone. It will work as a standalone, especially if you've read Wolf Gone Wild. You will be fine, okay? Basically, Wolf Gone Wild and Witches Get Stitches. If you read those two, you will be fine going in this. You will know who is who, what is what. There's enough development in the newer characters as well as the older characters in this book that it worked well. And I loved it, and I'm so excited for the next book in the series. This does have your funny moments. It does have some serious stuff in it too, so be aware of both of those. So those are my standouts for January. Let me know if we have any in common. What was your favorite book that you read in January of 2025? I would love to know, because I will absolutely check it out. And if you made this far in this video and you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to say anything, please leave me a wolf emoji for Wolf Gone Wild. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.